5 teams, 5 upgrade packages, 1 practice session to figure out if any of it actually works. That is the Canadian Grand Prix in 2026. And if you think Miami was important for the upgrade battle, you haven't looked at what's arriving in Montreal this weekend. Mercedes are bringing the biggest aerodynamic package they've introduced all season. McLaren are completing a 2-race development plan that started in Miami. Ferrari are asking whether their 11-part Miami upgrade actually makes them second fastest, or whether McLaren have already closed that gap. Red Bull need to prove that qualifying second at Miami wasn't just a circuit-specific miracle. And Aston Martin are hoping a gearbox fix done in Japan 3 weeks ago actually shows up in the speed traps on Friday afternoon. 1 hour of free practice on a track that spent the last year as a public park, dusty and low grip, completely different on lap 1 to what it will be by lap 30. Then sprint qualifying. No adjustment time, no safety net. If your upgrade doesn't work, you find out immediately and in public. Let's go through every team.
Toto Wolff said after Miami that the car wasn't at the same upgrade level as the McLarens. That is not a team principal making excuses. That is a team principal telling you they held their biggest package back deliberately because Miami didn't suit it. Canada does. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is a stop-start circuit. Long straights, heavy braking zones, and chicanes that punish aerodynamic drag more than almost anywhere else on the calendar. It rewards efficiency. How cleanly a car moves through the air on the straights without sacrificing grip through the corners. That is exactly what this Mercedes upgrade targets. Reports put the lap time value at 0.3. On a circuit where Antonelli already has the best engine on the grid, 0.3 of aerodynamic improvement on top of that is not an incremental step. That is a statement. There was also something buried inside this package that Ferrari specifically need to worry about. Mercedes are working to reduce their turbo lag, the fraction of a second delay between driver pressing the throttle and full power arriving. Ferrari's smaller turbo spools up faster. It has given them better race starts all season. If Mercedes close that gap in Canada, Ferrari lose one of the very few areas where the SF26 has a genuine edge over the Silver Arrow. Watch the start of the sprint race on Saturday morning. That one data point will tell you whether the turbo work actually delivered.
McLaren confirmed it themselves. Andrea Stella called it a surgical 2-race development push split between Miami and Montreal. Miami was part 1. Canada is part 2. What arrived in Miami focused on the front wing and floor, improving how the MCL 40 generates downforce in medium-speed corners. The result was immediate. Norris took sprint pole. He and Piastri finished 1-2 in the sprint race. Norris finished second in the Grand Prix, 4 seconds behind Antonelli, not 40. The Canada package completes the rear half of that story. New components across the floor, chassis, front and rear wings, bodywork, halo, and roll hoop. McLaren confirmed every single one of those elements in their official race preview. The target is drag reduction on the long straights while keeping the corner performance Miami's upgrade unlocked. If both halves work together as intended, and that is still a genuine if, McLaren arrive in Barcelona with a car that can challenge Mercedes on every circuit type, not just the medium-speed tracks that have suited them so far. Canada is the first real test of that hypothesis. The sprint format means the answer comes in roughly 40 minutes on Saturday morning. There is no slow reveal. McLaren are only 16 points behind Ferrari in the constructor standings. 6 weeks ago, that gap was far larger. If the Canada package delivers, that gap closes. If it doesn't, the 2-race plan starts looking overambitious.
Ferrari's situation is more complicated than anyone else in the top 5 heading into Canada. In Miami, they brought 11 upgrades, the largest single-race package any team has introduced in 2026. The car was faster through corners. The chassis balance improved. Mercedes still won comfortably. And then Leclerc spun on the final lap, Hamilton took damage on lap 1, and the results looked worse than the actual pace. Hamilton said it directly after Miami. The straight-line deficit is still too visible. Something needs to be done before Montreal. Ferrari are not bringing a major new aerodynamic package this weekend. Their focus is setup, software, and extracting more from the parts already on the car. Fred Vasseur confirmed further upgrades are coming, but the big aerodynamic step is not this weekend. Canada does suit Ferrari more naturally than Miami did. Heavy braking zones, medium-speed chicanes, lower pure straight-line relevance compared to Monza or Baku. Hamilton himself chose to skip the simulator entirely before Canada, a deliberate decision to arrive with fresh instincts rather than preloaded setup assumptions. Canada does not answer Ferrari's engine question. That answer comes in Belgium. What Canada answers is simpler and more immediate. Is the SF26 genuinely the second fastest car on the grid, or have McLaren's two-race development push and Mercedes' major upgrade now moved Ferrari to third? That question gets answered by Saturday evening.
Miami was the biggest surprise of the season. From barely scraping Q3 in Japan to qualifying second, 1/10 behind Antonelli in a single weekend. The steering rack fix, upgraded side pods, new floor, and their own Macarena-style rear wing transformed what Verstappen had called undrivable into something he could actually race. He ran at the front on his first stint, said the car, quote, doesn't feel like a passenger car anymore. Canada is a harder test. Miami's characteristics, medium-speed corners, a track that rewards front-end responsiveness, suited the upgraded RB22 particularly well. Canada demands more, harder braking, more aggressive traction out of slow corners, longer straights that expose engine gaps more directly. Hajar was still 0.8 seconds behind Verstappen in Miami qualifying. That same gap existed in Japan before the upgrade. If the improvement was genuinely car-wide, Canada should show Hajar improving too. If Hajar is 0.8 back again, the upgrade unlocked something specific to how Verstappen drives, not the car's fundamental performance. That is the data point to watch on Friday afternoon. Red Bull are bringing incremental updates to Canada. Refinements, not transformation. The real question isn't whether Red Bull gets faster this weekend. It's whether they were already fast enough in Miami to stay fourth, or whether one circuit's data was misleading them.
Below the top four, 3 stories worth following. Williams are bringing significant updates to Canada. Quietly, consistently, they have been one of the more methodical development stories of 2026. Their Canada package is one of the more notable updates in the lower half of the grid this weekend. Aston Martin's main story is a gearbox electronic fix done at their Sakura facility in Japan. No aerodynamic upgrades, just the transmission repair that Alonso called Fix Number 1. If the downshifts sound cleaner on team radio in Canada, the fix worked. If Alonso was still complaining about the same issues through the hairpin, it didn't. Alonso's radio calls are the easiest live data point to monitor for that story. And then there is the sprint format itself. Canada is only the third sprint weekend of the 2026 season. 8 points for a sprint win, 7 for second. The championship points that come from Saturday's 19-lap sprint race are not symbolic. Antonelli leads by 20. One bad sprint result from him combined with a strong one from Russell closes that gap immediately. The sprint format creates pressure that a standard practice session simply cannot. Every upgrade package on this grid gets tested in competition within 24 hours of arriving at the circuit, on a dusty track, in potential rain, with championship points on the line.
5 teams, 5 different stories, 1 practice session to find out if any of it works. Here are the 3 specific things to watch on Friday that will tell you everything about the next month of this season. First, the speed trap at the end of the main straight after turn 1. Watch where Mercedes and McLaren land relative to Ferrari. If the gap narrows, the upgrade packages are working. If Ferrari are still 15 kilometers per hour back, Canada does not fix their fundamental problem. Second, Hajar's lap time relative to Verstappen. Not the headline qualifying position, the gap between the 2 Red Bull cars. 0.8 again means Miami was Verstappen specific. Closing means the RB22 is genuinely improving. Third, the sprint race starts. 3 in a row where Ferrari launches better than Mercedes. If that changes on Saturday, Mercedes closed the turbo lag gap. If Leclerc or Hamilton are still ahead at turn 1, the work is still in progress. Canada has always delivered drama. This year, it has a sprint format running for the first time in circuit history. 5 major upgrade packages arriving simultaneously, a championship that is 20 points tight, and rain in the forecast for Sunday. The first free practice session is the most information-dense single hour of the entire season so far. Watch it live. You already know where to find us. Drop a comment below. Which team's upgrade do you think makes the biggest difference this weekend? I'll be back after Friday practice with the data.